Hey, and welcome to Game Talk. I'm your host, Ahmed Mian.
Hey, Connor.
Hey.
Hello.
Connor has some grievances to air, so I'm just gonna let him take it from here.
Well, I wouldn't even go that far. Um, so I want to talk about idle games this week, and what really inspired me to talk about this is the game Forager I played a little bit this week, and beyond that, I also have played a lot of Satisfactory, and I just started Factorio this week, and I think there's a decent argument to call both of those idle games at least as much as you would Forager. And I think my main point is I think calling Forager an idle game is a bit of a misnomer. I wanted to say because I don't know. I played just for reference. I played about 8 hours of this game in the past weekend, probably. Have you guys ever played it at all?
No.
I have watched gameplay of it, but I haven't
So
played it.
this probably isn't everyone's experience. So I don't want to sit here and say the game is bad per se, because I've seen a lot of positive reviews and I kind of get where they're coming from. But I played it for 8 hours and I found it incredibly difficult to put down. But when I walked away at the end of it, I I realized that I didn't actually enjoy a single moment of that time. Like I had just like it was just a
Yeah,
box. It's just a little tiny dopamine release every couple
that's what
seconds.
I was gonna say. These games exist that just solely exist as like dopamine factories. Like that's a
Yeah.
thing for sure.
And it really is because like you play Forager, and I thought like at some point, like the way it had always been pitched to me was like Cookie Clicker, but an actual game, kinda. And that's just not really true to any extent. Like, yeah, you like decide what path to go down in Forager and stuff, but at no point do you actually make a decision that has any consequences in that game. Like, you
Okay, so
just
let's back up a little bit. How would you define an idle game? Because when you say idle game, my mind instantly jumps to like those mobile games that like run in the background and accumulate stuff for you while you're not playing, and then like you could choose to speed things up by spending real life money or whatever.
see, I think of those too, and yeah, I mean the ability to spend real money, I guess, is there too. But I think of those games, but I also think of like Cookie Clicker and the other clicker games
Yeah.
because after a
Oh
couple
gosh,
minutes
yeah.
of after a couple minutes of clicking, you're not really doing any clicking anymore because you have
Yeah,
automation for it.
the most recent like clicker slash idle game I got into was Adventure Capitalist, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I've heard
that
of
was
those.
just another one of those cases where, like even when you're not playing, you're making obscene amounts of money. And when I say obscene amounts of money, like in-game money, or, not real money, obviously, but like we're talking about like unpronounceable numbers, right? Like numbers with like zeros in like the 50 to 60 digit range.
Oh
So,
yeah, and I think that those are like, especially the games that do stuff when you're not looking. I think that it's fine that those are just a Skinner box with a dopamine release, like, because they're not demanding that much of you, you know.
yeah.
The thing with Forager was that at no point, like I played, maybe you get to that point eventually, but I feel like I should have sooner because I played it for a pretty long time and was still like the core gameplay loop was walk around and click everything on the screen. You had to do it. You never got to stop doing that one thing. And eventually you got to the point where like it wasn't even the point of Forager, you're walking around, you're collecting resources, and when you collect a resource, another resource spawns somewhere on your tiny island. And it got to the point where I didn't care what resource I was picking up anymore because I had thousands of everything except the one thing I needed. And I just had to destroy everything so that that one thing would spawn. So I would just walk around this entire area clicking constantly to pick stuff up. And it's so easy to just let your brain turn off and do that. And then
Yeah,
I
and
picked up,
like
yeah,
yeah, I was just going to say like the game there's no meaningful gameplay there. The enjoyment you get is just the enjoyment of like obtaining a new thing. It's
right. And I
just
guess,
pure, like
yeah,
dopamine. We keep using the
yeah.
word, but that's what it is. Yeah.
For me in particular, I don't know, that rang really hollow. I turned it off and I kind of hated myself because I was like, man, I just wasted
Felt
my entire weekend on this
felt
game.
like you needed to take a shower or something.
Yeah, no, well, I felt like I uninstalled the game because I knew that I would turn it back on, like if it was easy for me. Like it really was like just addictive, and I mean that in the worst possible way in my case.
No, I mean these games have a very addictive quality. Like I remember I think my peak engagement with idle games was in college, right? Like around sophomore, junior year. Like for the classes I wasn't really interested in, I'd like just play these idle games like all day long.
Yeah.
And I one that comes to mind, something I haven't thought of in years, a mobile game called Dragon Veil, and it's essentially like a Chow Garden but with dragons, right? And
Oh
like
yeah. Okay, I'm familiar. Yeah.
yeah, and you can like hatch these rare dragons, get these rare eggs, and just like the whole game is just like sitting around waiting for them to hatch and like raising them. Uh, and like obviously you can speed that up with actual money, but yeah, like
Yeah.
though I don't know, like those games can really they're kind of dangerous because they can suck you in. They're a little bit of a trap.
Yeah. And yeah, and they just don't like I'm a big proponent. I hate the people who say like that video games turn your brain to mush because I find that to be decidedly untrue. You know,
These
games,
games really do though.
yeah, those
Kind of.
games absolutely do. But on the other hand, I think and me and Mike have talked about these games before. Factorio and Satisfactory sort of at some point turn into idle games. You know, at some point you're just watching the factory run.
But
And
I feel like that's different, right? Because like you
it's
work to achieve
absolutely
that
different
point.
because yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't just work by playing the game. You actually had to like unravel the puzzle of how to craft these things efficiently, and you had to use your brain and think to get there. And I just and I think that these are really cool, but they miss the mark on being a cool idle game because it requires a lot of input, you know.
Yeah.
And they also take a lot of both of them are not something you could like leave on your second monitor while you do work or something. They consume a lot of power from your PC or your.
Oh,
I
really?
think
Okay.
they're available on console. Yeah, Satisfactory especially. But once you've built a mega structure in Factorio, it also is really hard on your computer. But yeah, I think I really think the parallel I want to draw here is that Forager and Factorio scratch a very similar itch for me, but Forager is just if you don't at any point want to have to actually use your brain, you play Forager instead.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to sit here and dunk on people who like Forager over Factorio because that sort of thinking is not for everyone. But that is how it came off to me. Is if I didn't want to use my brain, Forager would give me the same dopamine hit. I just
And
won't feel like I earned
like
it.
I do get it. Like very occasionally, I do get like in the mood for something like that, and so I understand the appeal, right? But like again, like I never play these games for too long because eventually it's just like, what's the point? You know, like you don't after the initial rush of like, oh my God, I'm like getting all this feedback and upgrading or whatever so fast. It's just like it feels
Well, yeah,
hollow,
the moment you start asking what's the point, they've lost you. But
right?
I and there's another idle game that I played recently that I think is much better than Forager, although I think that it is even more deceitful in calling it an idle game, and that's a game called Loop Hero that's fairly new. And Loop Hero I actually really liked. I only played the demo, but I liked it quite a bit. It's like a card. I heard someone else describe it. Again, the besties. I'm just eating all their content now, but they referred to it as an RPG, but you're the dungeon master. You have
Okay.
this character just walking in a loop, and you place stuff on and around the loop. Like the cards you get dealt are world tiles, basically, and different enemies spawn and different resources spawn based on what cards you place. So you kind of draw the setting, and you try to like create a setting such that your hero will survive it, but they'll also get the resources that you want. And then your hero also gets gear, and you get to decide what gear your hero is using. And that actually dances a lot more with the idle game. I think I don't know. I think it's a better idle game than Forager is, but they give you decisions to make way too often. I think I've played all of these games, and I just thought to myself, like, man, I kind of wish this was on my phone, and it gave me a notification every hour or so that I had a decision to make, and I just got like, when I had a moment, I could look at my phone and be like, oh wow, I made this amount of progress because of the good decision I made earlier, and then put it back away.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just
Yeah. I
and
don't
I feel
know.
that way about Satisfactory and Factorio too. I think there is a huge empty space in the mobile scene for a factory game that is not quite as fast paced as these are.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know if there's a market for that in the mobile space, right? Like, we have all sorts of idle games in the mobile space that, are designed to get people addicted and just take their money, basically.
Right, but I just think that people like me who don't enjoy that, like if I had a slow-paced Factorio for my phone, I would absolutely play it. Like if I was just making a few decisions a day and like getting to see how that played out, drawing, a new production every, maybe space is your limiting factor in a factory game instead of time. So like how you unlock space over time so that you can expand. I don't know. I don't exactly know how they would pace it because obviously those games, I don't know, just the fact that I can't like run it in the background and just let the numbers get gigantic is where Factorio and Satisfactory kind of lose me. I really crave the game that I can run like or even turn off and like it just runs the numbers in the background and so the next time I pick it up.
I'm going to go a little deeper into the differences between those two games because they're very different. Both Satisfactory and Factorio. Yeah, they're very different from each other.
I guess I'm not far enough into Factorio to see that yet. I mean, I definitely see some mechanical differences, like the ability to put two things on a conveyor belt as opposed to one and stuff like that. But
like Factorio, you're always trying to expand because eventually you're going to run out of resources.
Yes, that is. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I am constantly aware of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Satisfactory, you don't run out of resources. There's no need to expand other than I want more. So you're
Satisfactory is even less conducive to like running in the background because it's such a big 3D game.
Like when I find myself playing Satisfactory, if I'm waiting for something, I'll just go explore.
Yeah.
See, neither of these games sound like idle games to me, or at least idle games as I know them, right? Like, I mean, there's too much involved from the player, I think.
I mean, Mike, maybe you disagree, but I do feel like at some point you are idling, like watching your factory work and just kind of collecting massive numbers of things. Maybe I'm really stretching the name because I wouldn't call Factorio an idle game. Like if I was putting it in a genre, Satisfactory or Factorio. I just think that there are things idle games could learn from Satisfactory and Factorio, I think, is what I'm trying to say. I think that just the parallels that Forager has to Factorio, I think. Because like you do a ton of automation in God, I'm stuttering today. You do a lot of automation in Forager, and you do a lot of automation in Factorio. The difference is that you actually have to like think to do it in Factorio and like make meaningful gameplay decisions and stuff. And Forager does not give you the opportunity to do that.
Just like on like a broad level, what a weird concept for a game genre, right? Like play it and get good at it so you don't have to play it, right? That's basically what we're saying. That's what these games are, right?
That is that's the end goal is to become, but I don't know. I feel like that's the end goal of like any game where you increase in power and stuff. Like the goal of any RPG is to become so powerful that you just one-shot everything, Like,
well, I don't know. I think most RPGs have a pretty involved story.
And okay, but when you play MapleStory,
yeah, and MMO maybe, yeah.
I mean, even in like, I don't know, I got a lot of satisfaction and there was obviously an amazing story and everything, but in Dragon Quest, I got a lot of satisfaction from just grinding and getting to the point that I could just annihilate everything.
Yeah, there is a little catharsis in that in RPGs, but
and like
Noita, I wouldn't ever call an RPG an idle game.
Oh no, I'm just comparing. Yeah, no, we're reaching far outside of the idle game territory at this point. I'm just saying like the idea of getting good enough at a game that you barely have to play it is not unique to idle games. Because like Noita, my long runs typically. All I'm doing is walking around and finding stuff because I've become so powerful, nothing can damage me, and I can kill everything in less than a second.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when you reach that point in a game, it's cool for a little bit, but my interest wanes very quickly at that point, right?
Definitely, and that's where idle games prosper. I think is that that's where the game starts, is when you're like at the point where you don't have to play it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely one of the weirder genres we have in our industry, I think.
It is, and I like it a lot. Like I don't know, something about a game that I can be playing while I do other things is just very attractive to me.
I mean,
Like,
it just like fills that base desire to be doing something, right? But like you're not actually doing anything, but you
yeah,
kind
it
of
also
are.
kind of fulfills the promise Animal Crossing makes, where it's like a game world that continues whether you're in it or not.
Yeah,
You know?
persistence.
Yeah, persistence. So there's something to that. And there's also just something to a game that only needs input every once in a while. That appeals to me a lot. Like, people say that there are games that like, oh, you can have a play session that's only like 5 or 10 minutes long, and that's not typically super attractive to me. Like sitting down and playing a single level of Mario, like yeah, that's a tiny bite-sized piece, but that has never really been attractive to me. I sit down and play a lot of Mario, but then like with an idle game, like you sit down and you use your brain and solve this problem for a couple minutes, and then you put it away and come back in a few hours to see if it worked out for you. Something about that's way more attractive to me.
Yeah. I don't know, sometimes like back when I used to play these idle games, I almost felt like kind of enslaved to them, right? Like I'd check them like compulsively and like
Oh yeah, yeah, it's definitely
it can really get under your skin and into your head.
I mean, yeah, the dopamine addiction is very real. I had to delete Forager, you know, Forager still it presses what an idle game can be, but it did have the same Skinner box that is just disgusting.
Yeah,
See,
like
my first idle game actually had an end state.
Really, what was it?
Yeah, it was Idle Oil Tycoon, I think. It was like
Okay.
a really basic idle game, but it had an end state, which was break the game.
Merciful. That's merciful.
yeah,
Yeah, no, the game physically wouldn't allow you to buy anything after a certain point. So
I think
the end state was just having everything and then
the
breaking your money.
the first game I remember in the genre is probably Cookie Clicker. Maybe oh, what was it called? Some tower management game. And it's like
was it like
crazy.
Yeah,
Like you
Crazy Tower?
you're like
Yeah.
managing a hotel basically, or
Yes,
an
I'm
apartment.
we're
Yeah,
thinking of the
on my
same
phone.
game.
I remember
Yeah.
loving that game in high school.
Yes, I was super into that game. I think
And
yeah, early college is when I played that.
I was in, yeah, that timeline checks out. I'm pretty sure that I would have been in high school. And yeah, I something about that game, nothing's really scratched that same itch to me. That actually in my mind is like one of the most perfect idle games.
Right, because like you would like amass enough money from your hotel to buy another floor of your hotel, so it was like this never-ending loop, and it was really satisfying because like
Yeah.
you micromanage your like little customers, your guests in the hotel too. They'd have like little quests for you, like
Right.
things they wanted in the hotel, and it was I don't know, that actually was like really fun, and I do
Yeah.
think, but there also was like a dark side to that game as well, right? Like you could purchase
Oh yeah.
things to speed up building floors on the hotel and stuff like that. So
I mean, Animal Crossing Pocket Camp I think was an all right idle game. It just made a couple of missteps that really pushed me out of it. Because idle game in a sense that like you would start some stuff and come back and see that it was done.
yeah,
I don't think it really. I don't know. It obviously didn't capture the puzzle solving and factory challenges and stuff that I'd love, that I've talked about a little bit before. But
right.
I think the only major misstep Pocket Camp made was not having an interconnected world. The fact that you had to go through a menu to get places really took me out of the game.
Yeah,
I figure.
little touches like that can really impact immersion.
Yeah, and I'm not even saying that like a game that is all menus is that bad, because that tower game was essentially all menus. Your tower was just part of the UI.
Yeah,
Like
the presentation in that game was very good.
it was amazing. Yeah, and I think they made a bunch of other games. I imagine I'd probably like
Yeah, they
Fallout
did.
Shelter too, because Fallout Shelter is a similar game, I believe.
Yeah, you're just building down instead of up.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a big fan of it. That whole I
This,
don't know.
like it's weird. Like this conversation's making me want to like get on my phone and find one.
Really, because
just
I've actually been like inclined to start developing a mobile game. I've thought about a couple times, but I want to play through a couple more. I want to do a mobile factory game. I think maybe this is
Mhm.
not me saying that I'm going to do that. This is me saying I've been thinking about it.
Remember,
And
I feel like
when when mobile gaming was like this brand new exciting sphere, and then all we got out of it was was idle games.
Yeah. I remember when people were saying that there wasn't going to be a PS4 and an Xbox, or PS5. 720 because
I remember being afraid it would be true. I mean, I think we've discussed that fear on the podcast before, I think. Like
No, this was way before our podcast, right?
Yeah, but we've discussed it before.
Yeah, we discussed the fact that this was a fear, like going into the 2010s, but it just seems so goofy in hindsight now. But like back then, right? Like that was a real concern. Like people weren't really, like the numbers, like for the PS3 and 360, while still good, weren't like insane. Like they weren't PS2 numbers. And like the encroachment of like mobile, like, that's when smartphones really became a thing. Like people were like, okay, this is just going to be gaming for everyone. And like they pointed to Japan, right? Like Japan like stopped playing console games altogether. It was all handheld and mobile games for them. So people really saw that as like a harbinger of things to come. And as we know now, like PS4 and Xbox One totally shattered that prediction.
Yeah.
Thank goodness.
I think a lot of people look to Japan and they're like, look at what they're doing. And then you got to realize we're not Japan.
Well, I mean, I also sort of get the impulse to do that because Japan is like essentially like the father of the gaming industry. They have created so many trends that others follow for years, right? Like Japan really sort of sets the tone for what gaming is, or at least they used to, right? Like I was going to say that's not so much the case
way
anymore.
Behind a couple of years ago. Like the 2010s, Japan spent a lot of time behind. I don't really feel like that's the case anymore at all.
No, I definitely feel like America is at the forefront now in terms of like, being the epicenter for games and game development. But yeah.
So that was just kind of a rough tangent, largely because I played a lot of games in the past 2 weeks and we didn't have an episode last week and I had to talk about it.
I have also played a lot of games, yes.
And I have other games to do and games we've been playing.
Yeah, we'll get back to that. But there is something very interesting I want to talk about. And just a personal sort of note from me. Nothing gets me more excited in gaming than new consoles, right? Like that sort of thing really sort of gets me excited just because it represents all sorts of possibility, right? And we have, pretty much confirmed rumors. We talked before about like the new Nintendo Switch, right? But now we have like sources like Bloomberg saying that like it's a thing, it's in production, or like it's going into production soon. And we've gotten some details on it. And the details are kind of juicy, I think. So this Switch is still reportedly going to be like a Switch, right? Like it's not going to be handheld only or docked only. It's a hybrid console.
Yeah.
It is going to have a 7-inch screen as opposed to a 6.1-inch screen of the current Switch. So the screen's going to be significantly bigger, I think. And that's cool. The screen's going to be an OLED screen, which is really cool in my book.
Yeah, that's really cool because the screen on my Vita is so nice. I have one of the old OLED ones.
Beefier CPU, we don't have the details on that, but like it's going to be an improved CPU from the normal Switch. GPU, I think, is the most interesting, right? So it's going to be a new NVIDIA GPU with DLSS, a DLSS solution baked into the console, right? So, And for those who don't know, DLSS is like this really hot new technology that allows for algorithmic upscaling of an image to higher resolutions. So yeah.
So there's a lot to unpack there. Yeah. Because DLSS does not work arbitrarily. DLSS has to be incorporated in a game during development, and it's not a simple thing to do.
But go ahead.
So what that means what that means definitely is that you're not going to be able to plug in any old game into a Switch Pro and get 4K out of it, probably.
So, right. I think you're right, but I think there's a question we have to answer right now. Do we think, I don't think this is the case, but I still want to pose the question. Do we think that this is Nintendo's next gen console?
No.
I think yes. I think it is a upgrade, right, to the Switch.
Okay, I thought you were saying it was a next gen console. It's not been long enough. The Switch is too hot.
It has not been. Yeah. It's been like 4 years, right?
Yeah.
If that.
Yeah, there's another 3 or 4 years before we get another. Nintendo console, probably.
And plus, it really doesn't make sense. The Wii U console generation was cut short because that console was a massive failure. But the Switch is like the most successful thing since the Wii. So
yeah, no, this is a I hope a PS4 Pro situation.
That's the thing, though. Like, the only reason I posed that question is because we don't know for sure.
No,
we just know that this console exists. We're just assuming that it's an upgrade. It has and it most definitely is. But
if it's Nintendo's MO to release an upgrade about 3 or 4 years in.
You know, like I always just have to pose the Nintendo factor, the wild card factor, because Nintendo could do anything, right?
Yeah, but you just think like they did the DSi there at the end on the DS. They did the new 3DS, and the new 3DS is the point that makes me really worried that this thing is just going to be a waste of money for everybody because no games took advantage. Like the new 3DS, literally, it was like a hardware flag or something, whether or not a game would use its extra processor power.
Well, okay, so
and no games used it.
I think that is a concern for perhaps Nintendo first-party games, but like we've seen third-party developers get accustomed to the multiple SKUs on Xbox and PlayStation, right? Like third parties are very much used to creating a SKU for PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One S, Xbox One X, etc.
We also don't really know how big of a leap this is because using DLSS, like upscaling 1080p to 4K with DLSS is not that big of a deal. Like,
yeah, so it's curious, right? Like Bloomberg is saying it's going to be a new NVIDIA chip, but like that really doesn't tell us anything. We don't know the specs on this chip.
We don't know how much more powerful it is. We just know that it probably supports DLSS.
But what's interesting, but yes, that it almost definitely supports DLSS. That's like pretty much confirmed at this point. But what's interesting is this new Switch will be targeting 720p resolution handheld, but up to 4K docked, and that is a huge difference.
Yeah, I've seen developers already complaining about having to develop UI.
I mean, that is just about as massive as like the lowest end of HD console gaming up to the current highest end. Like to be able to support that range must be a potential nightmare, I would think.
It sucks, yeah. I imagine it's very annoying because, yeah, it's annoying. It's very. I don't even know all the ways it's annoying because I've not done a UI heavy game nor one that
it just makes me think. Like you'd think if this thing was a proper, powerful boost over the regular Switch, it should be able to handle 1080p. Undocked, but you'd think maybe that means that Nintendo is sort of thinking like the extra power will be used for frame rate boosting, which is also kind of iffy because a lot of Nintendo games already run at 60 frames per second. So,
well, Breath of the Wild doesn't, and Breath of the Wild 2 is on the horizon. There's really no doubt in my mind that Breath of the Wild 2's development is influencing the development of this.
I can absolutely see Breath of the Wild 2 launching with this console.
So the Bloomberg article said it was the Switch Pro launches later this year with a bunch of games, I believe was the phrasing. There is no doubt in my mind that this launches day and date with Breath of the Wild 2. Like that's just the play.
That's got to be it, right? Like if it's not, it's I really have to question what Nintendo's doing,
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Like I wonder, like. We touched on this in the past, but it's so fascinating that Nintendo's even going down this route, right? Like I never thought I'd see like maybe like until 2 generations from now a Nintendo console with a 4K resolution support,
Yeah. I mean, the question is, I still just like, is it actually going to get used? Like the game I think of that needs this boost the absolute most, the first party game, is Breath of the Wild, the very first game on Switch. And that's pretty much the decider for me is like if Nintendo maybe not implement the DLSS and stuff, but like actually like if I get a frame rate boost in older games, this is a day one buy for me. I don't really care how much it costs.
Like we said, like I feel like that I don't know about the resolution bump for older games, but I feel like the frame rate boost has to be there, right? Like it must be.
It doesn't have to be there.
It doesn't have to, but it's got to be there.
It doesn't have to be there. It should have been there on the new 3DS. There are fan-made mods for games. Actually, I think if you have custom firmware on a 3DS, there's actually a flag you can tick that just makes it use the extra processor power for any game you launch. And it causes minor issues in a select few games, which people believe is the reason Nintendo did not just unlock it for all games.
Okay. Yeah.
And very, very few games ever used the advanced processor power of the new 3DS. It was like Smash Bros, Majora's Mask.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be the same for this Switch. I do think that.
I just don't know why you think that, because it's Nintendo.
I mean, like, what's the point though? Like, like,
what was the point then? It's Nintendo, man. I don't. I want you to be right. I want so badly for you to be right, but I'm just not ready. I'm not putting in a pre-order. That's another thing we should talk about, is whether or not anybody's even going to be able to get
this thing's going to be impossible to find.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Like, it's going to be,
that's what sucks, is I'm not willing to put in a pre-order.
It's going to be the next PS5. Like, no one's going to be able to get it.
Yeah, unless I know for certain I'm not putting in a pre-order. And if I don't put in a pre-order, like, that was the joke I was seeing, was like, maybe you'll see this thing in a retro game shop 15 years from now and be able to grab one.
Dude, you know what would be great? Like, if Nintendo's finally adopting all these modern technologies and stuff, like resolutions and all of that, it'd be great if they supported HDR on this console. Like, a lot of Nintendo games are really, have all sorts of bright colors, and I think HDR would really make those games pop even more. But no confirmation on that yet.
Yeah, HDR would be incredible in a Breath of the Wild sequel. I think it would go a long way.
Or even like Mario Odyssey, like with HDR.
Yeah.
That would be incredible.
Yeah, Nintendo just makes gorgeous games.
But so there's one other important point in that Bloomberg article. Analysts are pegging this from an MSRP price from $350 to $400, and I have a feeling it's going to be $400. So how do you guys feel about that price?
I mean, I'll pay it if it has the feature. If it's not a new 3DS, if it's actually a Switch Pro, and I'm going to get improvements to the games I already have.
I feel like power-wise, this is going to be in line with the PS4, Xbox One.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I feel like power-wise, it'll be there. And granted, those consoles weren't powerful enough to do 4K resolution, but we've got DLSS in this thing, so.
Right, DLSS is a game changer. Oh my God, will this be the only
console? Yeah. No DLSS in PlayStation or Xbox, but Nintendo gets it.
Nintendo's about to release the most powerful next-gen console.
God,
well, I don't think that's true. That's not true. But they're releasing the console with the most cutting edge technology, which is hilarious.
It's really funny. No, that's the other thing that we have to talk about, is that there is no doubt in my mind that this thing will still have Joy-Con drift.
No.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, it probably will, but it's crazy to me that, like, where's AMD's DLSS solution? Like, I feel like they should have come up with this.
Yeah, they have one. It's just not out yet. They're working on it.
And it's crazy to me that, like, so, for those who don't know, the PlayStation and Xbox are based on AMD architecture, or AMD, GPUs rather, while Nintendo gets NVIDIA. And it's just fascinating because, like, I truly feel like NVIDIA just stomps over AMD in a lot of respects. And it's fascinating to me that, like, the company with the least concern over power and, like, that sort of thing is leveraging NVIDIA. Well, I guess that's just how deals worked out way back then. But
I think it's more than that. I don't think AMD has any skin in the mobile game, and the Switch is using the same, or at least a derivation of the Tegra NVIDIA CPU chips that go in phones.
Yeah.
So AMD doesn't have a product to compete with that, I don't think. NVIDIA is really the only good option. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like, so at $400, assuming this thing is $400, I would expect, similar power. Like, it's strange, right? Because you can get a PS5 for $400, presumably. You could get an Xbox next generation console. You can get a Series S for less than $400. This thing being positioned at $400 really tells the average consumer that, like, this machine stands alongside those. And it'd be interesting to see if it actually does.
Can't play Mario on an Xbox.
All right, like,
can't play Breath of the Wild 2.
As always, we talk about all these things, but it always comes down to the games at the end of the day.
At the end of the day, this thing could be terrible and not not even have backwards compatibility and have Breath of the Wild 2 exclusive, and I'll buy it day one. Like if this is the place that I have to go to
question, interesting
2.
question. Do we think, and I think this is a horrible move if Nintendo does it, do we think Nintendo will make new Switch exclusives?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
That's really bad to me. I don't think that's a good idea.
Well, they did only because there's precedent. And it's a weird space, right? Because the old, I don't know, because they did some ports for the 3DS that were new 3DS exclusives. But
yeah,
and they were console ports
I feel
running on a handheld. And so
I don't know if that's acceptable now, right? Like maybe back then people weren't as mad about it, but like this would set the internet on fire if they did that today.
See, I don't think they'll do it for any of their major releases.
Because at that point, it's just like the same, like functionally as a new generation console, right? Like,
sorta. I mean, they never only did new 3DS exclusives. There were just a few games that were new 3DS exclusive. Like, right. There were only like 2 or 3 ever. I think there will definitely be, or at least I hope Nintendo allows it, because I think it opens the doors for a lot of ports. I hope there are new Switch exclusives from third parties. You know, that just opens the door for a lot of console experiences that are coming out soon to also come to Switch, I think.
Yeah, and it's weird that, like, if Nintendo mandates that, like, if you make a game for the Switch, it has to be able to hit all the targets, right? So, like, it would have to hit regular Switch undocked, regular Switch docked, new Switch undocked, new Switch docked. That's 4 different, very disparate targets for a game to hit.
Yeah, but didn't Microsoft say any game that comes out on the Series X has to also work on the Series S? I mean, obviously this is twice that. But
yeah, this is twice that, yeah.
But it's still, there's precedent.
And can you imagine, okay, so imagine you're a third-party developer that wants to put your game on everything, right? Okay, let's think here.
Four targets on the Switch, a PS5.
No, especially
right
because,
now
like,
where you have
it's
Xbox
cross-gen.
One, PS4.
Exactly. Let's actually, no, this is an interesting exercise. Let's count them. PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, PS5, Xbox Series S, Xbox Series X, Nintendo Switch undocked, docked, that's 8, and then Switch Pro docked, undocked. That's 10 different targets.
It's nasty.
That's a nightmare.
Plus PC, if you're really gonna.
Plus PC, yeah, that's 11. Yeah,
and
that's
then
11.
PC might as well be another 150.
Well, you know, yeah.
Yeah, because it has to work at every resolution.
Yeah, but for the sake of argument, let's just say 11 different platforms. Like, that's just a nightmare. Like, that in itself will extend development time by God knows how long.
Well, we're leaving the well, Xbox maybe isn't, but we're leaving the space where PS4 is going to be supported, I think, in the next year. Like, by the time the Switch Pro is out, I don't think PS4 games are going to be
so cross-gen usually lasts, like, for the first couple of years of a console generation, right? So
yeah,
but for a window there, it'll be
it's bad,
messy to say the least.
Yeah, if I was an indie dev targeting console, I would probably be targeting only Switch and PS4 and Xbox One. I don't think I would target all those other things.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even think about it.
Well, yeah, like, and I think you have a point there, right? Like, you can get away with only targeting PS4 and Xbox One because PS5 and Xbox Series are backwards compatible, right? So
yeah,
you can get away with that. You don't have to optimize for the next generation consoles.
And the Switch Pro will be back compat too. I wonder. I mean, I don't know. We always talk about the end of console generations.
I mean,
you know, is Nintendo dancing that line too? We don't know. I wouldn't put it. If somebody's going to leave the charge in that.
I think we'll have a more definitive answer once we see what this thing is. If this thing really is like a PS4 Pro or Xbox Series X, then like it's kind of wild to be that Nintendo is being like, okay, maybe we could just create new iterations of the Switch, right?
I think that's an extremely attractive option because, like, for the first time ever, I don't want a new Nintendo console.
Here's the thing, though. I heavily disagree that Nintendo will even consider that because they're Nintendo, right? The name of Nintendo's games, innovation. Eventually, despite how amazing of an idea the Nintendo Switch is, I think it's the most clever thing they've done probably ever in terms of consoles.
Yeah, they will short of like the original NES.
Yeah. Yeah, they will leave it behind for a new idea. Whether the idea is good or bad, they will do it because they're Nintendo.
God, I hope not. But yeah, they will.
You know it's true. You know it's true.
You know it to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, one final point about these consoles that I think would be sort of interesting to consider. What do you think they're going to call this thing?
The Switch.
The new Nintendo Switch.
Okay, so I don't think they're going to call it the new Nintendo Switch just because they use that paradigm already, right? Like, I feel like they have, like, for DS, they have, like, DS, DSi, right? Game Boy Color.
I mean, knowing Nintendo, it's going to be called the Switch U. Or no, that would have to be the sequel. That'd be the new console.
Oh, Jesus Christ, yeah.
They'll call this the Switch 2, and the next console will be the Switch U.
If this thing is named okay, hypothetically, if this thing is Switch U, I will sell every Nintendo thing I own and never buy a Nintendo product ever again.
No, you won't. You would never do that.
If it is the Switch U, I'm saying I'll do that.
I hope it's not.
That is just
it's the Switch U.
Stupid.
I do strongly think it's going to be a stupid name, though. I would bet on it.
In all seriousness,
I mean, let's have a fun game. Let's all come up with a name for it.
So I think the leading contender, like, I think the rumor is it's going to be called the Super Nintendo Switch, which I actually
That's so good.
The only reason I don't want it to be called that is because I want the next console to be that, right? Like, because I want the jump from like NES to SNES, except, you know, Switch to Super Nintendo Switch.
Okay, but the releasing a new console and calling it the Super Nintendo Switch, that's bad branding again. The Nintendo to Super Nintendo confused people. So like
That's true. Yeah.
I would. Oh my god, if they call it a Super Nintendo Switch, I don't care what it does. I'd buy it day one. I love that.
I think that is the best name. I think another popular rumor based off some weird like trademark someone unearthed is Nintendo Switch Plus, which is considerably worse.
Yeah.
I think. Any thoughts on that one, guys?
No, I don't like that one.
It's a terrible name.
So aside from those two, what do we think Nintendo could call it?
The Nintendo Swap.
No, I don't like that.
Wouldn't happen. It's really bad.
Yeah. Although, you know, it's really bad, so it might happen.
It is possible, right? Yeah.
Only company that does. Well, no, I shouldn't say that.
What if they called it the Nintendo Entertainment Switch?
Oh,
that'd be so bad.
I think that's
really
too
bad.
memey.
I don't know.
I think the strongest contenders are Super Nintendo Switch or Nintendo Switch Plus.
Yeah, or Switch
But,
Pro.
like,
I mean, people have been saying
Switch Pro, but like, I don't know if they'd want to. I mean, Sony doesn't have a monopoly on the word Pro. It's fine, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I fear that it's not going to be any of those things. And
what if they call it
really
the
stupid?
Nintendo Switch Undocked, like Unleashed, Undocked?
But that's so confusing.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what Nintendo would do.
No. Yeah, I mean, like, I think those are the only real viable names. Anything outside of that is getting into the realm of the absurd.
Yeah. But again, Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I actually had one more point to make about the Switch Pro, and that's
we've called it. We've just casually called it like all of those iterations during this podcast, which is really funny.
Yeah.
We've called it Switch Pro. We've called it Super Switch. We've called it.
One more thing about the Super Nintendo Switch. So basically, since very early in the Switch's lifespan, you've been able to emulate it with well, I'm not going to name drop it because it's mainly used for piracy. I don't want to get Nintendo on us. But anyway, if they release a new Nintendo Switch and I am not happy with it, like, what's stopping me? I would probably just use an emulator instead. Like, I already have my Nintendo Switch and I'll feel left in the dust. I think there's something serious they have to contend with there, is that, I mean, obviously not a lot of people are going to do that. Not a lot of people. Well, a lot more people now have gaming PCs than ever before. But a lot of people, like a lot of Nintendo's target audience, which is younger people, won't go through the trouble of. But my point is, you can already play Breath of the Wild at 4K 60 on PC.
Yeah, I've seen videos on YouTube.
And I think
I saw a video on my YouTube feed today of like 8K Breath of the Wild with like HDR and ray tracing. I was like, okay, let's calm down here.
Yeah, I've never done it. I've never played any of these games on PC. Largely because like I already had it on Switch. I already got the experience everybody else had. But like if there suddenly is a Switch Pro that I can't even buy because it's sold out everywhere, maybe I download an emulator. Maybe I do play Breath of the Wild in 4K 60. Maybe I do play Breath of the Wild 2 in 4K on my new 3080,
You say if that'll happen, I'm telling you that's going to happen. This thing's going to get announced. Yeah. It'll be sold out for over a year.
Yeah, I know. And I hate it.
Yeah.
I mean, the Switch was doing that, and we weren't even in like a massive silicon shortage yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's totally a thing that's happening right now, too. That's going to really impact. Like, we've already had problems like with shipments for the new PS5 and Xbox, and like that's just going to lengthen the duration of the drought, I think.
Yeah.
Which, like, it could, have interesting ramifications. Like, do you think that'll maybe extend this console generation? But maybe that's a discussion for a different day.
Yeah, that's a discussion for another episode after I've actually had a chance to research that, I think. So I'd just be talking out of nowhere right now.
Okay, so do we... Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
The second the U.S. government decides to give me computer upgrade money, honestly...
Yeah, exactly.
I can't upgrade my computer.
Yeah,
that's why you're looking at VR, isn't it, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, that's tax refund money.
Yeah.
So do we have any final thoughts on the Switch? I think it's super exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more details on it.
I think it's interesting, but like anything else, I'm at most cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I just become a little kid again when it comes to new consoles. I love it when new consoles release. But yeah, we have, at least I have, a lot of games I want to talk about. So should we...
I already talked about a lot of mine. I kind of built it into a rant earlier because I didn't want to have like a million games I've been playing.
Yeah, so did you play anything other than Forza?
Yeah, I played through all of Prey, and that game... I mean, I played it the moment it was on Game Pass. Like, I want to sit here and say, like, I hate that I waited this long to play it because it's so good. But
also, small interjection. Bethesda games hit Game Pass because that deal was finalized. So that's huge. Yeah,
we finally got EA Play on PC as well.
Yeah,
but I haven't had a chance to jump into that hardly. But yeah, Prey, incredible game. It's my first 0541 game or 0451 game. So. For the uninitiated, 0451 is like a signature developers like to leave in immersive sim games to kind of like, it's kind of like a statement of intent. Like,
yeah, it's a connection to the original immersive sims, which was, I think, System Shock.
Yeah, I believe so. I believe it's a connection to System Shock. It's basically, typically there will be a vault or a door that you need a code to open.
Always the first door.
Always the first door, and it's 0451 will be the password. And so if you're ever playing a game and you can't find the code, you can just guess 0451, and there's a decent chance that it'll be a reference. Yeah. But anyway, this is, I think, the first one of those I've ever played, and I just fell in love. And I played it wrong. Like, I found out, like, when I had almost beaten it, that I had totally skipped out on a way of getting stronger that I didn't even know about. And I still just had an incredible time. Even though I was, like, playing it in a way that I don't typically like. I played it fairly stealthy, and I don't like stealth games very much, but I just constantly felt like I barely had enough resources to get to the next room, and I constantly felt like I was like using my brain to get around like, limitations my character had. I didn't have the upgrade I needed to get through here, but maybe I can.
Wait, Connor, did you miss the shotgun?
No, I didn't miss the shotgun. I did miss the beam, the Q beam.
The Q beam. Okay.
Never got it. But what I missed was the fact that you could craft neuromods. I didn't see that until like right before the ending. I was like, what? I could have been doing this the whole time. And,
yeah, I think my end game of Prey was between crafting shotgun rounds and crafting neuromods.
Yeah, I only crafted like 2 neuromods the whole game because I didn't know you could do it. But yeah, I don't know. I was so immersed in this extremely well-realized space station, Talos 1, that the game takes place on. And I don't know. I just really got into it. I was, like, super invested. You, like, spend a lot of time reading emails. And, like, you'll read an email in one place that was sent from one computer, and later in the game you'll be in a different office, and you'll find the computer that received that email, and you'll be like, oh, this is that character that I was reading about earlier. And, like, they did this thing. And you can also, like, read about the disaster that's happening on Talos 1 you can see like the beginnings of it starting in the emails, like people noticing stuff out of place, and you're like, oh, I know why that's happening. And I don't know. I just really liked it. I was very engrossed. I do this thing a lot of the time when I play games. I'll finish a game, and then like to digest it, I'll look it up on YouTube and see what other people have to say about it.
Yeah, I do that too.
I watched two major videos about Prey. I watched Errant Signal. I love Errant Signal. He has a video on Prey, and I think it's extremely good. I love almost everything he puts out. And I watched Joseph Anderson, who I never agree with, but I watch a lot of his videos. I typically don't love...
His videos are behemoths.
Yeah, they're very long, and I typically don't agree with anything he says. I think he's typically far more... For somebody who ranks games as low as I do, I think Joseph Anderson is...
He's very critical.
He's a little clickbaity about it, too, but he's very negative.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Joseph Anderson was the one who did, like, a 3-hour-long video on The Witcher 1, right?
Maybe. The thing he did that I always remember is Super Mario Odyssey, it's no masterpiece. And I just like, all right, you're just trying to get anger clicks here. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's him.
And he makes a lot of good points in the video, but then I step away and I just play the game and I'm like, this is really fun. Like, I don't know.
No, I mean, a lot of his criticism is very valid, but he's definitely very hard to please, I think.
Yeah, he's just extremely negative. And he and Errant Signal, they actually had the same sort of issues with Prey, which was that they both thought that it got very boring in the middle, and that it just kind of dragged on way longer than it should have. And I see what they're saying, but it really did not come off that way to me at all. Maybe I just expected it because the way that it dragged on was kind of tropey. Like you get to the room where you're supposed to meet the guy you've been talking to the whole game, and then suddenly there's a crisis and you have to go fix the crisis. Like, I don't know. That's video games. Like, that didn't surprise me at all. Like, I walked into that room and looked at my playtime and I was like, this game ain't over. Like, there's going to be something. And then there was. And so it didn't bother me. I don't know. I just loved the whole game. I had an amazing time. I'll probably replay it in the near future. The only thing about Prey really that disappointed me was the fact that let me check if this is still true, but at the time of me playing it, there is no way to get the Mooncrash DLC for the Game Pass version of the game. You just can't do it. I would have to buy the game somewhere else and then buy the DLC there.
That's weird.
The only thing about Mooncrash is Mooncrash isn't even like it's a proper standalone game.
Yeah, but you have to have Prey to play it. Because Mooncrash is almost a roguelike from what I've seen. I actually watched some stuff about it because it said it wasn't spoilery.
Yeah, it's a roguelike.
But I also think I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a really good just the analogs to like the first 10 minutes of Prey versus the next 10 hours of Prey, like, and the ways that those are similar are really interesting to me. It has a symmetry to it, kind of. I like it a lot. It's a very good game. I can't recommend it enough if you have Game Pass. And I mean, it's a hard game, I guess. I don't even know. It was not easy. It wasn't like Souls hard or anything. If you liked BioShock, I hear it's very similar to that. I haven't played BioShock.
Loved BioShock.
I hear it's similar to the first BioShock.
Yeah, specifically BioShock 1.
Yeah. I guess there was some... I mean, there's even a move in the game called Psycho Shock. And I guess, like, Errant Signal brought it up a lot that was probably a working title for this game.
Mm-hmm.
But Psycho Shock is not a... there are issues with that as a name, I guess, culturally. I might be missing something there. I hope I'm not saying something inappropriate right now.
Yeah, that's news to me, but
I think I think the problem Errant Signal said was that it made people think of shock therapy, which that's nasty and a very disgusting part of our history. But I don't know. Anyway,
so Connor,
it's like a 9 out of 10, maybe a 9.5. It's very. good.
Wow, that's very very much praise from you, Connor. Yeah. Do you have other games?
I think that's the only one I'm going to talk about this week.
Okay. I was going to say if you had more, maybe we could like cycle through them so one of us doesn't have to drone on for a long period of time.
Yeah, I talked about Prey for a long time, so I'm going to... And we've already had Mike talk about it before, so...
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess I can go. So I've been playing a few games, right? So the first game I want to talk about, a little callback to last week. I've been playing Super Mario World.
God, I was hoping you were going to talk about this.
Yeah, so no, this game is really great. Okay, so let me just put that out there first. Yeah,
second best Mario game.
Yeah, no, it's really, really good. Yeah. I'm very, very bad at 2D platformers. I've discovered that. But despite that fact, I'm still enjoying this game. I think something that really helps is the fact that if you play it through the Nintendo Switch Virtual Console, you can like create artificial save points. And I always do that at the beginning of a level. I don't do it mid-level because I feel like that's a little bit too cheap. But yeah, like I did notice like weird. Sometimes when you die, like completely die in a level, it sets you back like several levels, and I was not about that.
Yeah, it does. Your only save points are castles and ghost houses, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, another thing that really sort of impressed me about this game is just the seemingly insane volume of secrets.
Did you find the super secret place?
Yeah, the one you directed me to?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. And that was really cool. Like, I think
it's like the most useful thing in the game. Like, I can't even imagine playing Super Mario World without having the super secret place unlocked.
Yeah, no, I was doing that before I had that, and it was definitely more difficult. But yeah, like so there are things in this game. Like I feel like I'm not even seeing most of the things in this game. That's how many secrets there are. Like I only found one of the Switch palaces so far, and I'm like towards the end of world 4 or 5, I think.
You definitely missed at least one.
Yeah. I'm currently in the Forest of Illusion, and I'm kind of stuck there because I've gone through like most of the levels there, but like and I really like the gimmick there where like you have to find like a secret way out of each of the levels there to progress.
Yeah, it's some of the easiest secrets in the game, but
I guess I haven't
not like super easy.
So I'm in Forest of Illusion 4, and I can't find a secret entrance out there in that level yet. So I'm kind of stuck there. So like that's
that was what filtered me as a kid. I remember I got to Forest of Illusion. Super Mario World is the first game I ever played. And so I'm 4 years old or whatever. And I don't think I had seen a secret exit. I don't think I even knew that was a thing. And I get to Forest of Illusion, and that was it. That was just, I played those levels over and over as a kid, and I still had a blast, but I never did get out of it.
And so like part of my like Dark Souls playing mentality came out when I was like doing one of the levels. I think like one of the levels had like Kamek, like the witch, right?
Yeah.
And she was like casting spells at you, and like you're on like this 2-tiered like level, right? And like if she uses a spell and you dodge it, it hits the platform, it breaks, so you can drop down to the level below. But if that level breaks, there's like lava below that, right? Like you know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, I know the exact castle you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, so I thought that was a boss fight, so I was just like, for the longest time, trying to kill her.
Oh,
like I was like, I'm not like, I can be real dumb sometimes when you play games, right? Like dumb in the sense of like stubborn. Yeah, in the sense of like stubbornness, right? Like I didn't even have a mushroom. Like I was in my small form, right? And I was like, so I died in one hit, but I was just like, no, she's making me so mad. I'm going to kill her like this just to prove whatever I have to prove, right? So I sat there for like over an hour just stepping on her head. And then I was just like, what is this? There's no way like this boss isn't going down at this point. And then me being the idiot that I am discovered that like if you move like 5 feet to the right, you saw that like it was a level and you had to actually like run through it. So like I wasted an inordinate amount of time trying to beat her when you were in reality just supposed to like progress through the level while like fending her off.
Yeah. That level's so good. Super Mario World just has some amazing levels in it.
Yeah, it's very
and
good.
The introduction of Yoshi. I mean, the introduction and in my opinion, best implementation of Yoshi. I don't know what Nintendo is so afraid of in modern Mario where they will not let you take Yoshi between levels. I don't get it.
The sheer power of Yoshi.
Yeah, the sheer power of Yoshi. I mean, I don't know. You just look at Nintendo back in like, I mean, there's a huge difference. Like you look at Nintendo back then versus Nintendo now. Super Mario Bros. 3, you can Tanuki fly through most of a level, and you can also like P-Wing and Cloud, and you can just skip levels. Super Mario World, you can use the cape to just skip levels. You get up in the air and just fly over
I did
them.
want to bring up like the most fun part about Super Mario World is probably the cape. The cape is amazing, right?
It's
like
such a good power up.
yeah, like it's to the point where like I don't even want the other power ups, right? Like maybe a mushroom to stay alive, but like I don't want the fire flower or anything. I just want the cape. And it's so interesting, like the way they design the levels, right? Because like each level is designed for like there's something for you to discover if you have the cape. I feel like, right? Like there's some like hidden platform with something in it that you'll most likely never see if you don't have the cape in that level.
Is it the one you're playing? Is it the version where when you get hit with the cape you turn big, or do you turn small?
I think you turn small. I think.
Okay, I think that's the original. I played the Game Boy Advance version a lot too, and in it, it's one of the two. They switched it where one of them you get hit.
I could be wrong on that.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I don't remember. I haven't played Super Mario World in a while. I actually have a cartridge of it upstairs that I play sometimes.
Yeah, so I'm still going through that game. How far into the game am I? Like, I think I'm near the end of the Forest of Illusion.
Yeah, I'd put you a little past halfway.
Okay, yeah.
Probably. Maybe more than that. I don't know. I've never played the game the right way. I always take shortcuts. The right way? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I feel like there's so many shortcuts that I just missed, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, there's a shortcut. The first level you can get... It's like the first level off of the beginning island. There's a shortcut you can take there that puts you on the path. It's like a bunch more shortcuts after that, but you can get to the end of the game really quickly from there.
Yeah. But, like, and this is, like I said, this is a great game, but I will say that I still, after playing a good chunk of this game, stand firm in my decision, or our decision rather, from last week in putting Odyssey over it. I do think Odyssey is the better game, but that is also probably largely to the fact that, like, I don't really play 2D platformers, so I feel like my opinion is maybe a little colored by that, but I do think I prefer Odyssey to this.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, they're very different games, so.
But no, I absolutely intend to finish it, and honestly, it's a lot more fun than I was expecting it to be. So, there's that.
I knew it would be.
Another game I have been playing for the first time ever, A Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past.
Oh man. So, yeah.
Okay.
I've never beat it. So.
This game is incredible. So I think this game, even more so than Super Mario World for me, is sort of just really enraptured me. Like, and I just made it to the Dark World, right? So I feel like I'm very early in the game still.
Yes.
But yeah, like, so this is one of those games that I just never played, right? So
getting to the Dark World is like the equivalent of becoming adult Link in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah, I figured, right? Like, I was seeing so many parallels to Ocarina just.
Yeah, it's crazy how much they got right. I mean, A Link to the Past is the formula. They got it right. Then followed that formula
in my ignorance, I thought Ocarina was the formula, but it's clearly this game.
It's like definitely A Link to the Past.
This game is the template from which the other Zelda spawned.
And it's only
the only thing
Zelda
Ocarina
game.
had, original was just the conversion to 3D that it did masterfully, I think. Yeah. But like the ideas, the concept of like traveling back and forth between two disparate like dimensions or time periods or whatever, A Link to the Past did it first, and it did it
and better.
Really well.
It did it better. Yeah.
I mean, I'm still too early to say whether it did it better, but
it did it more.
Like,
Ocarina
I don't doubt
of Time, you only really do it a few times, But in A Link to the Past, you actually travel between the two worlds a bunch, and then A Link Between Worlds, you should probably play.
Yes, I do want to play that as well.
It's
really interesting because I did play Link's Awakening. I played like the Switch remake of Link's Awakening, and a lot of the mechanics in Link's Awakening are present in this game, right? Because this game directly preceded Link's Awakening, right? Like it came out right before Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening started as a Game Boy port of A Link to the Past, and they quickly decided to do something else.
Yeah, like a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the like the dash and stuff, like I recall very vividly from Link's Awakening. But yeah, this is just it's so good. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, it's the epitome of 2D Zelda, I think, at least from what I've played so far. Like, the world is brimming with secrets, and it's just like, how were they able to do this so well without that third dimension.
Right? It's incredible how right they got it when that was only their third try. And that's like not, I mean, that like getting it right on the third try is like super common with Nintendo. Like Super Metroid was the third Metroid game.
Mario Bros. 3.
Yeah, Mario Bros. 3. Mario Bros. 3 and Mario World, are extremely similar games. So,
yeah,
it's a toss up there as we discussed. But yeah, the third game, that's when they hit their stride. The second game being weirdly different is also a theme for them.
No, but like it just surprises me so much because like I always knew this game was like really held up like as a masterpiece, right? But like I always thought like how much of that was just it was a product of its time, right? Like I never sort of knew.
Oh no, you could release A Link to the Past tomorrow.
Yeah, no, this game absolutely still holds up 100%, which is just mind blowing to me.
I wouldn't even say there's a single part about it that feels dated. Like,
I guess maybe the dialogue, but that's kind of really
the dialogue. Yeah, the writing's a little spotty, but honestly, that is true of a lot of modern games too.
Yeah, no, like this captures the Zelda formula so well because it is the Zelda, like it is the originator of the Zelda formula. I see that now, right? And I don't know, like I can't wait to get back and play it. Honestly, like this game is really scratching that itch for me of like a Zelda masterpiece. I just never thought I'd find it here, but I have, like it's a masterpiece.
It's insane.
Yeah,
it's a masterpiece. I really want to go back and I want to finish that. You talking about it's got me eyeing my SNES Classic that I have it on. I think that's my most complete save so far. I have like gotten through the first half of that game so many times and then gotten bogged down.
Yeah, and there's like so many little things I'm keeping in my head, right? Like, because Zelda games are like known for like just being packed to the brim with like little secrets and stuff like that, and like I just want to make sure I remember to get back to everything. And like I just got the Master Sword and I just went to the Dark World, but like there's so many things outside of the Dark World that I still have to think about, right? Like, and this just sort of doubles that now, so it's just crazy.
Yeah, I would say my only beef with A Link to the Past, and this is a beef I have with all 2D Zelda, is that dungeons can look extremely samey.
Yeah, I guess if we wanted to get into some criticism, like the dungeons while very good
they're aesthetically samey. Yeah,
they're aesthetically samey, and I would argue not as good as some of the 3D dungeons. I think the Zelda team gets better at dungeons generally. The more
there's something about a third dimension that makes it easier, but I do think you are too early in the game to necessarily make that call.
I mean, I've only done like 3 or 4 dungeons, right? So
yeah, you've done the baby tutorial dungeons.
Yeah,
and
so yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
I also think A Link to the Past does overworld dungeons like better than any other Zelda game, probably. Like there's a part where you have to like guide a man through a dark cave or something.
Yeah, I did that.
On.
Yeah,
that's super good.
It's good, but it's like really short, right? It was only like 2 screens.
Oh, extremely short, yeah. But I remember it, and I haven't played this game in over a year. And
right?
It was a 2-screen segment, and you remember it too, although I guess it's more fresh in your mind. But it's a really good game.
Yeah, and I'm thinking of all the classic Zelda things. Like I'm looking for all the pieces of heart and stuff like that, and I'm looking forward to what items I get in the dungeons, because some of these items I've never really seen in a Zelda game before, which means like the later don't really
gonna be familiar.
Yeah, like maybe the later ones will be familiar, but like the Book of Moldova that you use to translate the ancient Hylian language, that's like not a thing, I don't think.
I don't think that's what it was called originally.
Yeah, they didn't.
I think it was just called the Holy Book originally.
Yeah.
But it had a lot of religious references in the original. I don't know how much they've changed the Switch release.
Okay. But yeah, like it's just interesting to me to think that like maybe there are things in this game that are original to this game that they didn't carry forward, which is really cool. But like obviously they did carry a lot of stuff forward. Like I'm the boomerang and the bow and arrow and the bombs, like that's all Zelda staples. But like I wonder if I'm going to see like a hook shot later in this game, or if that was introduced later. And that sort of like unknown is really exciting to me as I play this game. Have you played
other 2D Zelda, or is this your first one?
I've played The Legend of Zelda. Like, but I never beat it, right? Like I just
me neither. I've played about half of it. I got stuck.
I haven't played Adventure of Link. I played Link's Awakening, and now I'm playing this.
I was gonna recommend Minish Cap if you're having a really good time.
I want to check out. I started
Minish Cap is like the prettiest 2D Zelda, I think.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. I started Minish Cap way back in the day, but I never got really far into it. I don't even have enough for an opinion, so I definitely need to replay Minish Cap. But
I highly recommend Minish Cap, and I also I'll get dunked on for this, but I like the Nintendo DS Zelda games. I really liked Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks.
Yeah, I mean they're okay.
Like I liked them.
I've played Phantom Hourglass. I've not played Spirit Tracks, but like Phantom Hourglass was the most it's just okay Zelda experience I've ever had. It's so by that, metric, Zelda games being the masterpieces they are, probably the worst Zelda game I've played, I think.
It's better than that's better than the Zelda 2, but
Zelda 2, you think?
Yeah. It's way better than Zelda 2. Zelda 2 sucks, but
Zelda 2 is like a black sheep, right?
Yeah, it's a 2D side-scrolling Zelda. I don't like it very much.
But yeah, I think I've said my piece on Link's A Link to the Past. I definitely plan on finishing it, and I do want to sort of hint at the fact that I want us to do another tournament style ranking of the Zelda games, but I do want to finish a few Zelda games before.
Yeah, I was gonna say I have a couple Zelda games I need to play through if we're gonna do that.
Yeah,
I've played all the 3D ones, but I never finished Spirit Tracks. I haven't played Minish Cap, and I have not played either of the Oracle games.
Yeah, I think my list is the same pretty much, except for I haven't played Zelda 2 as well, and Skyward Sword, to be honest. So.
Yeah. So do we want to wait until Skyward Sword HD comes out?
I mean, I will wait a few months, right? But like, I just want to put it out there that like that one's going to happen eventually.
Yeah.
Okay, and final game.
Oh my god.
So this one will be a lot shorter. I've been playing Fall Guys.
Have you bought any this week?
It's been 2 weeks, I'll have you know.
Yeah. Did you take 2 weeks off?
Okay, so Fall Guys, I only played this yesterday, right? So I played it for like 3 or 4 hours yesterday. But they released season 4, I believe, and they added like a squads mode. So I was playing with a couple other friends, and it was super fun. They found a way to translate all of their like solo games into squads as well, right? So like the games are the same, and you're just sort of graded like based on like when you finish. So like if you're in a race, right, like in a solo game, right, like if you finish, like if you're one of like 30 people that finishes, you qualify, for example, right? But in a squads game, once you cross that finish line, you get a set amount of points for your team based off when you finished, and anything below a certain threshold, like anything below like 4th place in terms of points gets cut off, right? And that's how they do eliminations. So I just think that was a clever solution, right? So they've managed to incorporate all of their games into both modes, so you can play them all either single or with a squad. And they've added a bunch of new maps as well. And I think the theme for this season is like future. So there like a lot of futuristic looking maps and stuff like that. And it was a very, very much a fun time. Very much an infuriating time too, because that game really raises my blood pressure sometimes. But
some of the newer games are harder than the old ones too. I noticed. I actually played season 4 wasn't out yet when I played, but I picked it up recently too and got back into it just a bit. And I found maybe it's just because I was so comfortable in the season 1 games.
Yeah.
But I found I was getting a lot of new games, and I was not getting as far as I typically did.
I actually think like the difficulty is pretty uniform across the games. It's just a matter of getting used to the new games, I think. And I do think Fall Guys is in a really good spot right now, whereas like, back in season 1 when it was really hot, like there were a few games, right? And like people really played those few games over and over again and maybe got tired of it after a while. But there's such a huge variety of games now. Like it keeps each go pretty fresh, I think. So
you're still going to get perfect match at some point though and be infuriated.
Dude, in all of the matches I played yesterday, not one perfect match.
Oh, really? I got perfect match when I was playing.
I think that just speaks to the volume of games available now. So
yeah.
I think Fall Guys is actually in a really good place, and I'm excited to see them add more maps. I do like that they're keeping all the maps and not like cycling out old maps. I think it's really cool and adds to like the excitement factor because you really just don't know what you're gonna get next.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll admit that I was wrong. I was wrong in my take when the game came out that I thought that they should cycle out games.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it gets like really unwieldy, but like they're definitely not at that point yet.
Yeah.
Okay, I've talked enough. What about you, Mike?
All right, so I dove back into the wonderful world of submarine sims.
Oh.
Subnautica?
No, I've been playing U-boat.
Real submarines.
Real submarine sims.
Big boy submarine games.
Big boy submarine games, not Subnautica. I never thought I had an itch to play submarine games until I played my first one, which I think was Dangerous Waters, and I'm like, this is kind of cool. And
Today I learned submarine games are a thing.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Mike, I really appreciate the flavor you bring to the show because you play a lot of games that me and Amit have never even heard of.
Yeah. I saw a video on it from like a YouTuber I watch, and I'm like, this actually looks kind of cool. Playing in a submarine, sinking ships, not too in depth, because I hate actual in depth sub sims.
So it's not like Microsoft Flight Sim level?
It's not.
Okay.
Mainly because a lot of that stuff is a pain, and you'll be sitting there for actual real hours waiting to
Right. You're not really trying to train an actual submariner here. You're just trying to enjoy a submarine game.
Yeah, I'm just trying to enjoy the feeling of being a German U-boat captain.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Keep talking, Mike.
Oh no, you know my true motives now. No, I don't think I've committed any war crimes yet, thankfully.
So what's this game called?
U-boat.
U-boat, okay.
I think it's by these Russian devs. I think they might be Russian. But, yeah, you're a submarine captain. There's not much more to describe there other than the typical submarine fare. You go out.
What is your typical submarine fare?
You go out, you get a mission, you try not to get killed by an aircraft that will inevitably come down and bomb you to death. Very, very quickly.
So is this like taking place during World War II or something? Or
yeah, this is World War II. So most of the missions are like, oh, go out here and sink a freighter, and you can see on the map like, oh, hey, Germany's winning, and then they don't win. It's literally you just like driving around in the ocean sinking ships. It's very satisfying though.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's that moment of tension where you're kind of surfaced on the water where you don't know if anyone can see you or not. Because if they can see you, surely that aircraft's going to come by and you're going to have a rough day.
Yeah, it's wild to me that like there's a game for everything, right? Like there really is. Like I never even thought of like a submarine game past Subnautica. You know, like I've never thought of that, but
yeah, obviously it exists. A sim game for it. Another game I've been playing, coincidentally, it's a tank mechanic simulator. Nah, I kid.
Okay. It wouldn't surprise me though.
I haven't played it, but there's just I just like sim games.
Yeah.
I can't describe it.
Is the U-boat game is that VR compatible?
I think they're working on a VR. It's in early access right now, but they're regular with their dev updates. I think they are working with No, there is a VR release of it actually.
Okay, because the game I Expect You to Die had a submarine level, and nothing since then has affected me the way that the submarine level of I Expect You to Die did. There's something about like
Isn't that by Shell?
Yeah, Shell Games, yeah. So we actually know these guys. But there's something about feeling like you're in a tiny tin can at the bottom of the ocean that is so unnerving in VR.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I swear you like smell the submarine air. Like it feels so real.
Yeah, it's amazing the tricks VR can play on your brain. That's why I tell people like you really don't fully understand VR until you experience it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care how much you research it or watch videos on YouTube. Like you have to see it to believe it. You have to do it to believe it.
Yeah, you can watch a YouTube video all you want, but the YouTube video will not tell you the actual feeling of looking through those goggles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is why, like, I don't know, like I really hope VR, and I think it will. I think VR is poised to explode even more with this generation. But
are you gonna get a PC VR kit with your new PC, Ahmed?
I don't know. I think I think
I think you'd be remiss not to get a cheaper one if you
right now I'm very
edge.
excited for the next PlayStation VR just because like every sign points to it being very competent, and I'm excited.
There's a good
for that.
chance it'll be PC compatible too, so you might just want to wait.
So
Yeah.
I think I'm just going to hold off and get that and then see where I stand. But yeah, I'm very much excited to really jump into like next level VR because keep in mind like most of my experience with VR has been like PSVR, which is very sort of like on the lowest end of the gamer grade VR solutions. So yeah, excited for that.
Every bone in my body wants to buy a Valve Index, but I know I cannot financially justify that.
Yeah, I really just don't recommend the Valve Index if I'm being honest. I just think in a couple there are no games that support its exclusive features. Excuse me.
No full motion tracking.
Yeah, the only reason I would suggest an Index is that it has the best tracking on the market. And really tracking issues I don't get that many.
Is Half-Life exclusive to the Valve
I have
Index?
Okay. I'm looking for probably at like an Oculus Quest, honestly.
A Quest 2 is a very nice headset. The only problem is that you have to have a Facebook account.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have one.
I mean, everyone's got a Facebook account, right? Whether or not you use it.
I do not like. I don't like the precedent. I don't want my social media tracking my gameplay and stuff. I don't like it. And I don't like Mark Zuckerberg. I don't like Facebook as a company.
What do you use, Connor?
Huh?
What do you use for VR headset?
I have a Windows Mixed Reality headset. I still have my Lenovo Explorer. I don't even think you can get those anymore. They're pretty rare, but I picked it up for like $200 back in the day. Well, my dad did. I got it for Christmas. They had bundled them with a bunch of laptops, and people didn't want them. And you could pick them up real cheap on the used market.
Yeah, they don't
use Mixed Reality.
Do they make those anymore?
I don't think they make the Lenovo Explorer, but the Windows Mixed Reality brand isn't dead. There's actually there's a headset called the Reverb G2 that is like really good, like almost Index level good. It's like $600. I think the original Reverb is still out there. There's a couple other Windows Mixed Reality headsets out there.
It's
in
baffling
the $200
to
to $400 price range, I think.
With Windows Mixed Reality being a thing, it's just baffling to me that Microsoft isn't really embracing VR.
It's insane.
It's the only misstep I think Microsoft's doing right now. Like other than that, they're pretty on point.
The only consistent problem I've had with Windows Mixed VR, there are kind of two of them. One, it still uses HDMI, I think. I don't know if the Reverb G2 does, but HDMI, I don't love that. I kind of wish it used DisplayPort, and which I think you can buy a converter. I'm pretty sure it's not a huge deal. Two, it only has two cameras for its inside-out tracking, except for the G2, I believe. So if you put your hands real low or real high, you can lose tracking. And throwing doesn't work super great. Like picking up something in VR and trying to throw it. Something about the way it calculates it interpolates your movement and stuff. A lot of games throwing doesn't work super well. Half-Life Alyx is like the only game I can comfortably throw stuff in.
Yeah, I feel like throwing is a pretty important mechanic in most VR games.
It doesn't stop me as often as you would think. There are very few games that like are annoying to play. There's only one game that's ever stopped me from playing. Accounting Plus.
Yeah.
There's a part where you have to throw a guy at another guy, and I found it extremely difficult to do. It took me almost half an hour to get past that part because I just
see, it's little things like that why I think VR is not mainstream yet. Like it's little things like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because that was just a little hardware hiccup that made the game like I just couldn't get past it. There was no
once they're like the hardware hiccups are sorted out, I feel like it's becomes easier for the mass consumer.
This headset's like 4 years old or something. Like I actually don't know how old this headset is. It's at least 3 years old. But no,
I mean to be fair, I don't think have any of us really tried out cutting edge VR stuff lately. Like we haven't. So
I have I haven't used a Quest 2 yet. I've used a Quest and it's an extremely good experience.
Yeah. So for all we know it could be there, but
yeah. The Quest 2 definitely is. Like you pick up a Quest 2 and you play the Quest 2 exclusive games, you're having a positive, excellent VR experience.
Yeah.
Once you hook that up to your PC, I don't really know anymore. but that is an option. And they're so cheap. They're like $300 or something for Quest 2.
Yeah, that's very attractive.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, the Quest 2 is actually like a mobile VR.
Yeah, you don't have to hook it up to a PC. You can just play it wherever.
The cable is like $79, so I might just buy the Quest and the cable.
You can get a cheaper cable. You do not have to buy the stupid Facebook brand cable. Do your research, but I think there's a Anker. I think Anker has one. Anker makes extremely good stuff.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Anker.
They have a cable that is compatible and works fine. It's like $20 or something. I don't like Facebook. I do like. Obviously, this isn't something I've done now, but something that has occurred to me is like the idea of traveling. The fact that I could bring my Quest 2 on a plane with me and like sit in a movie theater on an airplane and watch a movie.
Yeah, that sort of thing's going to be sort of thing's going to be a lot more commonplace. It'll look very weird at first, but I do think 10 years from now, I'd say like a good chunk of people in planes have helmets on. So
and I don't think there are any other VR headsets on the market right now that like do that in a good way. Like the Quest 2 is extremely high resolution. It has the theater apps and everything. It has the storage to put a couple movies on it. That is like exciting. That's like the selling point for the Quest 2 to me over any other VR headset is traveling with it. And that hasn't mattered for the past year for obvious reasons, but coming up soon I intend to do a lot of traveling to make up for that. And I may break my vows against Facebook and pick up a Quest 2. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see how strong my principles are.
So submarine game?
Submarine game.
Anything else?
I derailed your game.
That's about it. Other than I've gotten back into Satisfactory because the new update launched.
That's old news. You always play Satisfactory.
Yeah, I mean, I get into the new update, don't actually get to the new update content, and then quit playing Satisfactory, waiting for the next update.
That's
so it's really
relatable.
like it's a vicious cycle. Eventually, the game's just gonna launch, and I'm just gonna have to make it to the end tiers.
What a game!
Yeah, what a game.
I still think I prefer Satisfactory to Factorio. I really like thinking in 3D and stuff, but I'm really enjoying Factorio too. I'll probably talk about it next week once I've played it a little more.
Alrighty, I think that's going to do it for us this week. Thank you all for listening. Please like, rate, and review us on any podcast service you use. Click the link in the description of this podcast to join our Discord and talk to us there. Thank you, Connor and Mike.
Yep, see you guys next week.
Yep, see you next time. Bye.